What if I told you that as of the 18th of October, the Iranian nuclear deal is not just dying, it's officially declared terminated, and a letter signed from Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing sent straight to the United Nations? We'll see just what this means for you. Yes, this is real. Resolution 2231, the backbone of the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the JCPOA nuclear deal with Iran, hit its 10-year sunset, and Tehran's nuclear restraints under this UN law are now formally gone. This is not a rumor. This is documented and delivered. And Britain, France, and Germany just got publicly slapped for attempting to trigger sanctions before the clock ran out. Hello, Swivelheads. This is Greg Allison with Green Gregs. And we fact-checked this with the resolution text, UN archives, and original letters. No spin here. Buckle up, because this is not a paperwork dispute. This is nuclear rules reset with shockwaves from Vienna, from the Strait of Hormuz to the Pentagon War Room. Iran, backed by Russia and China, delivered a joint letter to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and the Security Council, declaring the JCPOA and all corresponding Resolution 2231 restrictions terminated on schedule, not by violation. The letter asserts that the UN's jurisdiction over Iran's nuclear file is now closed, and that any Western attempt to restore sanctions is legally void. This is not interpretive. As of 18 October, the sunset clause, which is embedded in the plain text of Resolution 2231, well, it expired by calendar law. Britain, France, and Germany, a group known as E3 collectively, attempted a last-minute snapback in late August to preserve the sanctions before expiration. Tehran, Moscow, and Beijing rejected the filing as procedurally defective, arguing the E3 had violated the deal and thereby forfeited legal standing to invoke its mechanisms. Verified through UN submissions, the August 28th E3 filing and Iran's formal rejection now exist in the official record. The E3 warned Iran has enriched beyond limits that and that the disappearance of the UN oversight could accelerate weapons breakout capability. Iran's response is that compliance held until the United States unilaterally abandoned the deal in 2018, rendering Europe's objections legally and morally tainted, as they said, with unclean hands. Of course, we know Israel backed that to President Trump back then because they said Iran was already violating these procedures. And that's still up for debate, but it appears to be true with the high enriched uranium that we know about. But all that aside, we get back to the facts here. The Iranian foreign minister asserts that all triggers, restrictions, and enforcement mechanisms expired under resolution text. With Resolution 2231 expired, the UN no longer gets to restrict Iran's ballistic missile program, fuel cycle trade, enrichment activity, sanctions, snapback exposure, any of that. The International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, still monitors, but without UN enforcement authority. Of course, Iran greatly restricts that monitoring, and restrictions of that monitoring was part of why the United States withdrew from this provision. That and certain findings, which the Mossad claimed that they had from obtaining Iranian files on their nuclear program, which suggested they were already way outside and had greater ambitions. But again, I digress. Those are claims made. So, Iran is currently enriching at approximately 60%, just one engineering step from weapons grade warhead material. So, by co signing the letter, Iran, Russia, and China used the UN system itself to codify a block rejecting Western sanctions leverage. The letter functions as a strategic declaration. Policy now moves without Western permission. Analysts call this the final strategic consequence of Washington's 2018 withdrawal, accelerating Iran's alignment with Moscow and Beijing, which was already pretty strong. Is this new axis solidifying that, along with North Korea, could lead to World War III? Good question to ponder. Israel interprets the expiration as clearance for Iran to accelerate, shifting the backstop from UN procedures to Mossad intervention. Now, what can that mean? The Gulf states may rearm. You got to consider that the Gulf states are really afraid of Iran getting a bomb. And as we know, Saudi Arabia and Egypt and several of these countries have already said that if Iran gets a bomb, we're going to get it. And this probably has a lot to do with the new treaty between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, but Saudi Arabia may decide to still get their own. Maybe that treaty will extend to Egypt. We don't know how all this is going to play out, but the U.S. and the EU may pivot toward unilateral actions, cyber operations, and covert disruption. Diplomacy is frozen. Trust has evaporated. This is not a missile launch, but it may be more consequential. For 10 years, a legal instrument constrained escalation to some point, and on 18 October, that instrument ceased to exist. When nuclear rules vanish, military doctrines change. When doctrines change, history changes. So the prepper take, what do you need to know about this? When states dismantle nuclear guardrails, civilians become unconsulted collateral. What is your say in these things? This is not alarmism. It is a structural reality. Deterrence remains peaceful only until the moment that it fails. Is Israel already planning its next attack on Iran? Many analysts were already drawing that conclusion. Many believe that the 12-day war was not the end, that we just had a kind of an interlude to something bigger. Will Israel draw the U.S. into the war again? That looks all too likely. Will this weaken the U.S. military's ability to deal with China should it attack Taiwan, the Philippines, and or Japan? Given our current shortage of munitions and China's restrictions on exporting rare earth minerals, you can bet it will. Many believe another conflict with Iran could lead to a ground war. Yes, boots on the ground. With its mountainous terrain and large military, this could make Russia's invasion of Ukraine look like a cakewalk. Would this invoke action by Iranian sleeper cells in the U.S. to take down our power grid and launch other attacks? That looks all too likely. Would this encourage China to move against Taiwan, the Philippines, and or Japan? Again, all too likely. Would this embolden Russia to move against NATO nations or North Korea to attack South Korea? Tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you ready for World War III? For our grid to go down and other attacks to ensue in our home country? In all of our home countries here in the West, we're all vulnerable. Are you ready if this escalates into a nuclear war? Get your preps in order and watch my videos on surviving nuclear war. The geopolitical timer is always faster than people think. And I'm going to show you something from the sponsor of this show. The sponsor of this show is none less than my space channel, Galactic Grave, because I got a banger video that is just in time for Halloween. It'll scare the skittles out of you. This video here is what is really out there. This is my new theory called the Dark Fortress, not to be confused with the Dark Forest theory of to answer the Fermi paradox. Now, this is one scary video. You really want to watch it, but it's scary, it's spooky, but it's also inspirational. This is probably the best video I've ever done. So you may want to watch this video. I highly encourage it. It will be scary and entertaining all at once. Just like I said, just in time for Halloween. But it's very informative. You may want to watch it far after Halloween. So something to ponder. Anyway, so back to our closing here. If you value verified, cross-check breakdowns, hit the like, subscribe, and bang the bell before this disappears under the algorithms. At Green Greg's, we move past headlines and into the documents themselves. We also analyze what this can mean for the security of the West and you as a prepper. Stay aware, stay grounded, and stay ready. Keep your eyes wide open and heads on a swivel. I am Greg Allison with Green Greg's. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for watching, and Greg out.